Given on some experience back in your minor hockey youth days, is there anything that you can share, that you did that helped you going forward, or things that you could look back on that would help these kids in today's game?
I think a lot of my success just came from my work ethic. You played with me. I wasn't the most skilled guy. I wasn't the fastest skater, but I was determined. I never took no for an answer, and um, I knew what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. I knew that I couldn't skate up and down the ice and stick handle through five guys, but I knew I could go into the corner, get a puck, and give it to a guy who could score. I knew I could go stand in front of the goalie and deflect pucks. So um, I think it was a combination of uh, I want to say having the drive and determination to know what I needed to do to succeed, and uh, also understanding what I was good at in order to succeed. So I think in order for players to succeed, you have to understand what your strengths are, and you have to be able to use it in a game to where it brings out the best of your abilities. And I think looking back on it now, something I could have improved on as a kid that was, would have been fairly easy would have been a thing as simple as skating. I mean, the way the game has gone now. You watch the NHL. It's just getting started up tonight. I'm watching the Leafs and Habs, and like these kids can skate. They all fly, and it's something that if you do when you're young and you're programmed to skate well, you have a long stride, you're explosive. I mean, you're always going to have it. That part of the game's never going to go away. And when you're able to skate at a high speed and do things at a high speed, that's when you can start to incorporate other things. The puck handling and all this other stuff. Like you watch a guy like McDavid, he's probably my favorite player to watch. Just his explosive power and the way he can just. It looks like he's not even moving, and then he'll just fly by one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Like it's really unbelievable.
Yeah, it's definitely eye opening for sure there too, and that's big part of today's game is doing things at high speeds. There's lots of players that can do things at half speed or three-quarter speed, but able to do that at high speed. Some players that just aren't able to make it can skate that fast, but they can't handle a puck at that speed. Personally, how I saw it was I was a smart player, so it wasn't the fastest guy. I could do it at that half to three-quarter speed. It wasn't ever full speed at that top end, like say pro or NHL speed that you need to dominate. And that's the difference. Is it's just those are big things, but they're also little things that these young kids can continue to work on. Um, and I think in the training side, there's a mindset to it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
we were talking prior is the names that we were playing with, just like all these guys that we got to learn from, and you being with the Rangers a lot longer than I was, the organization in the Hartford Wolfpack, Connecticut Whale, there was, we got to play with Wade Redden, Matt Zuccarello, Dale Weiss, um, Ryan McDonough, and the list goes on. But there's some things that you can take away from being a minor league player and fighting their way up, kind of like similar to any underdog minor hockey player, really, like they can take it away, right?
Yep. Well, I can remember going into my first training camp with New York. I had just come out of the OHL. I was a point a game player, and like I told you before, I was definitely not the most skilled guy, but I knew what I had to do to succeed. And I remember going into camp, and at the time it was guys like Chris Drury, Marion Gabrick, like those were big names when we were kids. And I remember getting on the ice with them and thinking, okay, I'm not stealing their job, his job. So what am I going to do to make this team? And I looked at the guys on the fourth line, and I thought, okay, they're not skill wise, they're not that much. Like at the time, I think it was Aaron Voros. Uh, I can't even remember the other, but anyway, they weren't crazy skilled. And I thought, you know what? If I can crash and bang, if I can fight, if I can, carve out a little niche for myself, maybe I have a chance of making it to the NHL as a third, fourth line guy, and then who knows what happens. You see a lot of guys that come into the NHL as third or fourth liners, and after they gain the trust of their coach, they turn into a first or second line guy. Like you don't see it as much now, but when we were younger and coming up, you saw it a lot more. So that's kind of, I guess, what I told myself I was going to do. I definitely didn't shy away from the fighting part of things, and I have no regret now, as I fully believe I did all I could to make the NHL. So that's just the way it was.
Yeah, and it's as you go back to talking about, what you had to do to get there, and that's, guys can think about it. It's one thing to think about and one thing to do it, but also doing it every single day. And I just remember, guys like yourself and Weiss and Soriel and all these tough guys that had to play those, the gritty role and do the dirty work kind of stuff. Like that's a hard thing to do day after day after day, not only in the games, but the practices. The practices are really hard to get up for too. I mean, it becomes a job, right? And you got to do it over and over. And the guys that can stay with that level or continue to improve and play top levels, that's what it takes. It's the consistency.
Yeah, honestly, Wonger, the hardest thing for me, I think, was the mental grind of it all. Uh, I mean, as a fourth line guy, I went into every practice thinking like, okay, I have to practice like today's a game, because there's guys in the East Coast League at the time. There was still the Central League. There's guys in the OHL. There's guys at college. There's so many guys that can come take your job. And if you're not at your best for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even at the AHL level, like your job is gone. So, as a guy that was on the fourth line and kind of always not worried, but in the back of my mind knew that someone could very easily take my job. It was something that wore on me for sure. And like you said, I had to do things the hard way, but that's just the way it was. And no one had a gun to my head telling me, hey, you got to do this. It's something I wanted since I was 3 years old, skating on my backyard rink. It's just the way things evolved. That's how I had to play to get by. So
Yeah, you just wanted it, right?
right.
Yeah, it's that's one of the biggest aspects to anything in life is you got to want to do it and have the passion for it and the interest